class of rights. And the citizens are in control of that definition, not the office holders. This is what they must be reminded of. This is why the covenant, this is why the apology. They need to learn who is in control. Are you too few to take on a task so large? No. No. The fact of the matter is, we suffer today because fewer people than you, by and large, have driven an effort to undermine the promises of our Constitution, have done so successfully from their perspective. No, you're not too few. It does take extraordinary resolve, to be certain. Federal Indian policy is, in the first place, a highly questionable proposition. Now, you might say, but look, don't we live in a time when not only is there federal Indian policy, but we're certainly on the verge, if we haven't consummated all kinds of differing federal policies for differing groups of people? Isn't that what the Akaka bill is about in some sense? Isn't this idea that the federal government gets to define who we are as if it had absolute control over us based on the territory we stand on or what our birth record was? So why complain about Indian policy? Well, the reason is Congress exercises the kinds of powers it is attempting to exercise in the Akaka bill only because it does what it does in Indian policy. Take that away. Take away the claim of absolute territorial jurisdiction. You take away the Akaka bill. You undermine completely the pretense in Congress that they somehow should dispose of us. No, we are in charge. We can never forget that. We should be able to move wherever we choose to move, subject only to entering into appropriate contractual relationships with the owners of whatever property we happen to seek to settle upon. They have nothing to say about that. Constitution promises us inviolability of contract. But what good is inviolability of contract if you're not permitted to contract? The Constitution meant for us always to be permitted to contract. Fundamental right, not a privilege offered by Congress or by any law. If they write such a law, tear it up. It has no standing under our Constitution. That's what it means to be free, self-governing citizens. We ask of Congress a very simple thing. Provide for us the protections that we need to carry out our rightful activities. That's all we ask. We don't ask Congress to make us rich. We don't need, you have to always remind yourself who those people are. As if they could. As if they had any understanding of what it might take. I don't mean to speak disrespectfully of our legislators or our presidents or anyone else. I am very respectful of those who are willing to serve in public office. But I would like us to raise the stakes if we can. Let's not undermine respect. Let's begin the process of finding people who are worthy of respect to hold the offices. Indian civil rights will continue to be a problem and a vexation for us until they no longer exist, so-called. The only civil rights worth talking about are the civil rights of Americans. It has long since been true that every Indian in America is an American, and as such, has absolutely as much authority over Congress and the President and the Supreme Court as every other American. It ought to be accorded just as much deference and therefore the pretense to say when they can and when they cannot participate, how they can and how they cannot participate in ways independent from those that apply to everyone else, is nothing but an act of despotism. It's not a word one uses lightly. It's not a word one uses frequently in description of the government of the United States. Fact of the matter is, though our government is not despotic in general, it hasn't gone that far, it often is tempted by despotic exercises of power. Checking one is the key to checking all despotic exercises of power. That is what makes this important. This is a rich opportunity. You have been at this for a long time. I've done a few things. You have done very many things. But probably the most important thing that you've done is to create a forum which, if others hear enough about it, will give them some place to go. Now, you know as I do, the wide number of groups that are organized in this society to deal with the same kinds of questions in differing subject areas. They're all over the place. We mentioned Toward a Fair Michigan, which we founded recently in Michigan, whose mission is no different. It is time to command their attention, those such groups. So they should be on the mailing list routinely. They should be invited on broad general topics to share, to participate, to learn, to teach. As we begin to break out of ourselves, we'll begin to discover just how numerous we are. I had an experience quite recently, last October, participating in a debate on the subject of affirmative action at Wayne State University in Michigan, in Detroit, Michigan. Wayne State is a quintessential urban university where the opinions you can expect to prevail are the orthodox opinions. You would expect there to get very little hearing for the argument against affirmative action and very robust applause for the argument for affirmative action preferences. In a debate between me and the emeritus dean of the law school at the University of Michigan on that campus, the debate ended not with the dean defending preferences getting the applause, but with the argument against affirmative action getting the applause. Not because I have any debater's tricks, I have none, but because open and fair argument has its effect. When people actually get to hear real discussion, they will make secure judgments. I'm bringing to you this as an encouragement in the work that you do. Trust the people. To the same degree that I say, don't trust the Congress, I say, trust the people. And trusting them means taking the argument to them. Give them the chance to express themselves on this argument. That means pushing these cases in such a way that they gain public attention. That means, if the time comes, being involved in surfacing the rare candidate or two who can carry the weight of the message. Think about it in just that way. Ask yourselves, who, at what level from top to bottom, can carry the message? And find the way to surface those individuals as candidates